Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to our webinar. We're so excited to have you here. Today, we will be diving into Excel features that will surely increase your productivity and efficiency when working with this app. Our speaker today is Mr. Jermaine McDonald, who will be giving you tips and tricks on how to really get the most out of your Excel Office app. Jermaine is an Excel user himself, and as an experienced Excel user, he will be showing you what features he uses that make him more productive and work more efficiently while using the app. So welcome, Jermaine. After Jermaine's session, I will be hosting a nice pop quiz so we can test your knowledge, which will be able to play on your mobile. You will get instructions on how to log into that game later. Afterwards, you will be able to ask Jermaine any questions you have about his presentation in our Q&A session. If you have any questions, you can start writing them in the Q&A panel, or else you can just wait until Jermaine's presentation is done, and then you can ask them in the Q&A panel then. Finally, we'll be asking you to fill in our survey. It's really important that you share your thoughts with us on these webinars as we get valuable feedback on how to make our webinar content better. As you've probably already seen in our emails, we will raffle a great giveaway between survey participants. The survey is very simple to fill in, and it will only take about 3 minutes of your time. We're scheduled to be closing at 11:40. So without further delay, I would like to give the floor to Jermaine. So Jermaine, whenever you're ready. Jermaine, sorry, you're on mute.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, that is so funny. Okay. All right, no problem. So let me go back full screen. Okay. Yes, I was saying welcome to everyone. If it's your first time, a special welcome to you. If you are a regular here, welcome back. Today I'm going to try and do justice to an application that I love very, very much. But because usually for these webinars, we're not sure of the skill level of the persons who are joining, we try to keep it in a way that, you know, for beginners, they'll be able to get value out of it as well. So, you know, hopefully I'll be able to do justice to the areas that I'm going to be sharing here. And, you know, definitely feel free to ask your questions as we go along. What I'm hoping that you can do now for me is let me know where you're joining from. So type in the chat where you're joining this webinar from and what you're expecting to learn. Now, I may not cover it in this session, but the areas that you mentioned will give us an idea of what areas that we can cover in future webinars, and it helps us understand the kind of things that you're looking to learn from these sessions. So before I get into the session, I'm going to speak a little bit about Inova Solutions and who we are. We are considered the best Microsoft licensing solution provider in the Caribbean and Latin America, and we really focus our efforts, our time, our energy into empowering our customers of all sizes, you know, create the advantages they need to just survive in business. Business is about creating a competitive advantage, and as a partner, we understand that. So that's our driving focus. That's what we seek to do at all times, is to provide value to our customers, to our services, which then empower them to create the differentiation that they need in the marketplace. So what you're seeing on the team, just some photos of our team members. We have a very diverse team, a very skillful team that covers, you know, a wide range of just background, skill set, experience, and we use all of it to just work with our customers on a daily basis. We are based in multiple locations, so if you should ask us where we're located, it's all across the board. So some of the countries are shown here. We have offices in some locations, but then we have staff in many more. So we serve customers on 3 continents. That may, you know, increase in numbers as we go. And we have been a very proud winner of the Microsoft Partner of the Year award for the past 7 years. That's a streak we're very proud of, and we strive to maintain that streak by serving our customers. And most importantly about us, we use everything that we sell. And that's why we're able to do webinars like this to showcase the products that we sell, because we use them. So we're not here showing you things that we don't know. It's things that we use on a daily basis. All right. So I'm gonna get a little bit into what we can do for you. If you're again not sure, we provide a wide range of services. We couldn't list them all on a slide, but we're focused on 6 key areas. As this snapshot is from our website, you can go to inovacorporation.com and you'll see the services that are shown here. We've tried to be a trusted advisor to our customers, so they reach out to us to have conversations about their environment, about their goals, about their needs, and we create a roadmap together to see how best we can support them throughout that journey to accomplishing their goals. We help with the procurement of software, whether it be an enterprise agreement or the different types. We have also a cloud solution provider agreement as well. That's a new model that's a lot more flexible for customers to work with. So it really doesn't matter the way in which you wish to procure, we can help you. We also provide a wide range of implementation, migration, adoption, and change management services for our customers. And we offer support. So if there's anything that breaks, we help you get it back up. And we spend a fair amount of time as well with our customers, helping them optimize the products that they purchase. So we not just sell it to you, but we help you to use it in an effective way. So I'm going to get to the meat of the presentation, the reason why you're here, and is to learn some tips and tricks about Excel. Now, Excel is used by organizations all over the world. At my previous stint at Microsoft a few years back, that's all they use at Microsoft is Excel. All the reports for all the locations all over the world is used in Microsoft. It's used, Excel is what's used to manage all of those reports, and it was just amazing to me just what this application can do. I personally have been using Excel for a number of years, since maybe about Word 97, and I don't know if anyone here has used Word 97. If you have, just let me know in the chat that you've been a user of Office since then. But to know how to access Excel right now, it's available in Office 365. So there are multiple plans with Office. All of them include Excel. There's a free version called Excel Online, which you can just search for Excel Online, and you'll be able to do some basic edits. And you also have the ability to use Excel through the web browser. So there's actually a web version that's free, and you can use Excel on the web as well. And this is just an application that is just amazing. I can't speak enough about that. And a good final piece to note as well is the fact that you can use Excel to collaborate. So you have the ability to share a file and work with it with up to 99 other persons. So that's a very useful thing to be aware of. Some of the benefits, I started to talk about it before. You can work easily with data. So there are so many things that you can do to manipulate, present, calculate values based on existing data. Collaboration is easy, reporting is easy once you know what to look for, and it's because it's a part of the Office 365 suite. You also have the ability to ensure that your documents are shared and stored in a secure way. You also have the ability to encrypt your file, or password protect certain areas of an Excel workbook, and a lot of other features that you could use to secure the data that you are hoping to store. All right, so I'm going to be focusing on just the areas that are shown on the screen right now, again, because Excel is so massive. I had to kind of narrow it real down to just something that I thought would be extremely useful. When I help persons with Excel, I find that the areas that they need help with the most are tables, charts, and formulas. So I thought I would spend most of my time there. But what I like to do in these webinars as well is show how I use the application. So I'm going to show you how I've customized my interface by going into the options and showing you some of the things that you may want to consider. I'll share some common shortcuts that I use from time to time. I'll show you how to enable collaboration by sharing a workbook. And then we'll get into just understanding tables, understanding pivot tables, which is essentially a summary of a table, and we're going to look at pivot charts. We're going to speak a little bit about formulas, how the building blocks of a formula, and then I'm going to do a live demo of a pivot chart and table. All right. So in terms of customizing your interface, it really starts with you going to the file section to the bottom left. If you're using the latest version of Excel, you'll see an options tab. From that options tab, you'll see the screen that is shown. And what I like to do here is go through and just go through the settings, see what things I may want to change just to my liking. If there's something I don't understand, I'll maybe research that area and see how best I can just make it a little bit more conducive to the way I work. So I always recommend this tool for any application that I use. Be sure to customize. If you have not customized it, then you're using the basic setting that is being used by people all over the world. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it shows just your ability. It shows your understanding of the application when you customize it. So, having things to your convenience, maybe changing what's shown, customizing the quick access toolbar, things like that. When you do it, it just saves you seconds, minutes, hours, sometimes in the way you work. And to me, based on everything that we have to do for work, it's those time saved is just precious to me. So I like to spend some time there. And before I do the live demo, I'm going to show you everything that I'm going to be presenting on the next few slides. And I'm doing it in this way, just kind of prepare you for what's to come, so that you can be prepared to ask any questions that may come under those sections that I'm presenting. The next thing that I want to show you are shortcuts. So if you actually have Excel open now, if you're maybe watching this on your desktop with multiple screens, you can actually do a quick check of some of these shortcuts. What I find very useful is pressing the Alt key in Excel, and you'll actually see some labels pop up on the ribbon, and the ribbon is to the top of the screen. It's usually expanded, but you can minimize it if needed. And just some really helpful shortcuts here, I think, that you may benefit from. If you want to see a full list of the shortcuts, you can just go to officesupport.com or microsoft.com for Office support, and you'll see a whole bunch of shortcuts for Excel. There are so many that I couldn't list them all here, but these are the ones that I use the most. So if I'm in a workbook and I want to go to the data tab, I'll just press Alt and A. Or if I actually don't need to memorize the second part, because once I press Alt, it will show me, and I'll demonstrate that as well. Always useful is the save, cut, copy, paste, and undo. Those, at least, I would recommend that you memorize, because they work the same across all the Office applications, and sometimes that extends to other applications as well. So you always want to be able to just perform those basic shortcuts, so that just in case for some reason your mouse is not working, or it just saves you, as I said, those precious seconds that you may want to save. So this is what I was referring to on the screen before. Hopefully you can see it. If not, feel free to zoom if you're able to zoom. Hopefully you can. But to the top, you will see the ribbon that I was referring to. And to get this screen, all I had to do was press Alt on the keyboard and it shows me these labels at the top. So if I wanted to share a document, for example, I will go to Alt and press ZS. If I wanted to go to the Review tab, I press Alt and R, and so on. You get the idea. So this is a very useful shortcut because sometimes it just, you know, for the tabs that you use the most, maybe after a few tries you've memorized that shortcut, and instead of moving the mouse to go up to the ribbon, click on the tab you want, you just press a shortcut key and you get there in seconds. So this is a very useful shortcut that I thought you may want to know if you haven't used it before. And I mentioned as well being able to share and collaborate. So to the top right of your Excel window, and if you don't see this share option, there's a very good chance you're not using Office 365. You may be using an older version of Excel. To get the version that I'm using, you'd simply just need to upgrade. If you need that upgrade, feel free to speak to us about it. Now, once I press the share button to the top right, it will pop up the dialog box shown at the number 2 right there, and it will first, for me to share that workbook, I would need to upload it to OneDrive first. Now, if you're not familiar with OneDrive, OneDrive is a storage application. That's the simplest way to explain it. And it's cloud storage. So once I store that document in OneDrive, I can access it from my phone, from my tablet. I can go to another PC, log in, and access that same document. So this allows persons to be able to work on this document with me. I could also just send it as an attachment in an email, or I can send it as a PDF. So the steps are listed to the right, and feel free to, you know, practice this when you have the chance. So this part we're going to look at, and this is the section that I'm going to be including in the live demo, and that's a pivot table. So you can work with, so what I find sometimes in Excel is that persons are working with data, but that data is not in the form of a table. Now, I can't think of a reason why, if you have data in a format like this, you would not use a table. I can't think of a good reason not to. Now, the benefits of using a table is that you get to perform, you know, calculations. There are functions that you can now have access to because it's a table, and you have the benefit to do things like sort. You can do calculations on the amount. You can do filters. You know, so things like that you're allowed to do once it's a table. If it's not a table, then you're not going to be able to do those things. And what we have in a pivot table is essentially the summary of the data that's in a table. So if you think about it, you can use the data from a pivot table to make decisions. So if you look at the pivot on the right, it's showing the very same data that's in the table on the left, except that it's summarized. So for those 7 transactions that we have, and let's consider this the budget or the expenses listed for a family. We have those expenses, and on the right now we can see the total that was spent and the total per person. And I'll show you how we can perform some calculations on this data using a pivot table. So if we wanted to expand that basic summary that you saw on the previous screen, we can have a more what you call sophisticated pivot table. It's the very same data, but it's being presented in a different way. And this allows us to see, for example, now in a more meaningful way, what dad has purchased, what Kelly has purchased, what mom has purchased. So I'm able to see total per person and now a grand total data. If I wanted to filter this data by month, if I wanted to do maybe, let's say this is over a period of years, I could do it over years. All of that is possible using a pivot table. So again, I'm going to demo this closer to the end. And I wanted to touch a bit on formulas as well. So with a formula, if you think about it, let's say that same table that we mentioned just now, for us to have that total, we would need to do a calculation of some sort. Every formula is essentially math in Excel. So, and the data that is calculated is based on what we call cell. Now, a cell is pretty much, think of it as a combination of a row and column. So column C, row 3 would be considered C3, C4, etc. So if I wanted to do a calculation for the data in cell C3 and C4, I would use the equal sign C3 plus C4. And I'll show you how this is broken down in another screen as well. So building on the same example I used in the previous slide, if I wanted to add the numbers 1 and 2, do a subtraction, do a multiplication, do a division, I would actually type in those formulas. And this is actually a quick test. It's simple math, but just imagine the possibilities of using this simple math to build on more complex calculations and equations that you could get. So you also have the ability to do, let's say I wanted to see 1 squared or 2 squared or 3 squared, I can do that calculation as well. So again, this is more meaningful in a demo, but I wanted you to understand the building block of formulas, and that's what we're going to show here as well. So the way to go about building your formulas, and I would say anything that you find yourself having to calculate, see how you can make it more efficient with a formula. And what we have at the top are the cell references, as I mentioned, A1 and B1, and we have the operator. So that can be a minus, a plus, divide, whatever it is. And you have now these building blocks that serve to longer, more complicated formulas. So if you think about it, what you see below in terms of the function, sum, and the argument, if I wanted to go the long route for that calculation, I could put A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus A4 all the way to 10. But as you see, that's not as efficient as using a function that's called a sum, and that argument that the function needs would be cells A1 to A10, and we call that a range of cells. So this could be done if I wanted to go even one step further. I could put a comma and add another argument. So I could do ranges from A1 to 10, comma, C1 to C10, comma, etc. All right. And that's what we have here. So imagine that I have that, let's say we had broken out that data for mom's expenses, Kelly and dad's separately. I could actually add those using this formula that you're seeing on the screen. But again, we could also do that in a pivot table that I'm going to show. It's just depending on what your needs are, there are multiple ways to do multiple things in Excel. So learning how to use the application more widely is about thinking about efficiency, thinking about what can present the data in a meaningful way, and maybe also thinking about what your audience will need to see. So if you're sharing that data, having the formulas calculated in such a way where it's more, so let's say, for example, some values would change. When you do calculations based on numbers and the values change, then you have to change that formula. But we can do something, for example, we can make it an absolute reference. And what that means is that if that value moves, it still gives us the same, the formula is not broken. So sometimes, I don't know if you've seen that, where if you make a change or you move a cell, the formula breaks, and that's because you need to use what's called an absolute reference. So that way it will always, the formula will always work. So if you have to add a column, for example, let's say that this formula was based on C1 to C10, but then I've inserted a column between B and D. So what was in C is now in D. This formula would break. However, if I used an absolute reference for the values, once that column is now added, the formula would still work. hopefully that was not too technical for you guys. All right, so the live demo that I'm going to get into, I'm going to take basic data that is not in a table. I'm going to create a table. Then from that table, I'm going to go to a pivot table. Then I'm going to go to a chart. Then I'm going to create a filter for that chart using slicers and timeline. So a slicer is essentially a filter, and that's what's shown to the bottom right. So I have those customized. So I've decided to call my slicer family member and items purchased, and that will allow me to filter the data that's in the pivot chart. And the next to it on the left, we have what's called a timeline. So a timeline will show me data across a period of months or years. So I'm just going to go to that demo. So give me one moment. Let me just switch over to my application. All right, hopefully you're able to see it well. So as I said before, what I would do, and I'm going to show you this quickly, to customize your interface, you'd go to the File tab, you'll go to Options, and this is how you can customize the Excel interface. And normally just go to, changing the things that are meaningful to me. It doesn't have to be the same for you, but I would normally, personalize the interface. I would maybe look at how the formulas are calculated. So for example, it's automatic here. I can choose manual. I can choose to enable iterations. I can, just look at the things that are maybe something that I don't want to try. It could be that it could be an option that I have not used before, but I'm interested to see what it does. I'll turn it on, give it a try, and then maybe I'll turn it off depending on what it does. I also like to pay attention to what it does with data. So you may want to look at these options here. Let's say that I wanted to import data from Microsoft Access. I could turn that on here so that when I go to the data import screen, I'm able to import from Access. So that's a very important thing that you can look at. And the quick access toolbar is something that I use a lot. So the quick access toolbar is to the top left. So where you see this on and autosave option, that's the quick access toolbar. So if I wanted to remove autosave from here, I just select it, click remove. In this case, I'm not going to because I use this often. But you can add all of these commands that are here to your quick access toolbar. So for example, I use the sum function a lot, so I'm going to add that. And that's about it for now. So I'm going to click OK. And what it's done, it's added the sum bar that's right here. And when I mouse over that option, I see a shortcut in brackets. So if I press Alt and the equal sign, it will do a sum for me. If I wanted to remove something from the quick access toolbar, I can just essentially, go back to the options that I mentioned before and remove it from there. And I've also had the ribbon minimized just to make it easier for you to see. But if I wanted to pin it, I just, as you see, I just click on home, click the thumbtack that's there, and it will be pinned. If I wanted to collapse it, I do that, and I'm able to see more of the screen. All right, so this is the basic table that I was mentioning before. This from this data, if I wanted to see now the sum of these amounts, if I wanted to sort this table, all of that would be very hard for me to do if it's not in the format of a table. So to create a table, I can select, I'll just highlight all of the data and just go to insert and table, or on the home tab, there's actually an option to format as table. Now, that's what I did, and that's what created this table here. All right. So this table is the very same data. The benefit of using a table, though, is that if I wanted to add another row to this, it will automatically add it and the total will be updated. That's one of the benefits of using a table. The next is that I now have the ability to filter. Each column is an opportunity to filter based on the data within that. So if I wanted to see just the totals from that, I have the chance to filter it. If I wanted to see from Dad and Kelly, I can do that. And in this case, it's actually not filtering. I know you're seeing this data adjusted as well. It's actually not filtering this, but it's just because they share the same rows. So just bear that in mind. So I'm going to go back to select all, and that's pretty much a basic table. What I've done here is essentially turn on the auto sum feature, which is on the home tab to the right. But as I said, the shortcut there is alt and the equal sign. If I didn't want to do a sum, let's say that I wanted to do, let me actually zoom in a little bit more. So let's just say I didn't want to do a sum, but instead I wanted to find out what's the highest amount that was spent. I switch it to max, and I see that the maximum amount spent is $400, and we see that's groceries. If I wanted to get sort of like an average amount spent, so I wanted to see from all of these entries what's the average amount per purchase, I see that here as 155.9, and that's just some of the benefits of using a table. If I wanted to see the number of entries, I can switch to count, and it shows me 10. All right, so sum is the most common one to be used, but just so you're aware that there's much more that you can do. So the next thing that we're going to look at is how to now go from this table to a pivot table. All right, so to do that, you just select any cell within that table, and then you go to insert, and you'll have the pivot table option. So I go to the insert tab, click on pivot table, and it gives me the options as to where that pivot table will be created. Now this table that you see here is the name of the table, so it's called table 13. I do have the option to put this pivot table in a different worksheet. I'm going to choose the same worksheet just so that you can see how it's created. And I'm just going to choose the location by just clicking on a cell here, and you see that's filled in, and I'm just going to choose OK. So what we have here now below it is a pivot table. This is a pivot table as well, but this was created from before, and clearly now you can see we can have multiple pivot tables from the same table. To create this pivot table that you're seeing though, what I would do is need to add what we call the pivot table fields. And a field is essentially the same thing as a column. So it's maybe hard for you to see, but what I have here to the right are the date, buyer, type, and amount columns that were from this original table. And essentially, as we said before, a pivot table is a summary of data that's within a table. So let's say that I wanted to now get this summary. Let's say I wanted to see the type of transactions. So I'm gonna drag down type and drop it into rows, and that's what you're seeing here. And I'm gonna drag the amount into the values section. So as you see, it's the very same data, very same total that we had before. And now let's say that I want to see not just the type, but I want to see the buyer. I can just drag that to column, and here we have the very same pivot table that I had created above, very same one. So what I'm going to do is just maybe zoom in a little bit more so you can see it a little better. So from this, I have some options here, right? So I have this set up in a way that the data is meaningful to me, but you also could fool around this and maybe change it up a little bit more. So let's say I wanted to have it presented like this. So instead of using columns, I'm using just rows to summarize this table. So I see where Dad spent on food and sports, Kelly spent on books, music and tickets, and Mom spent on groceries, food and fuel. Again, same total. If I wanted to now format this table, I could just now go to values, click on value field settings, that's to the right, and I could now format this number that's shown. So it's set to general by default. I could format it as currency. If I wanted to adjust decimal places, I can. Click OK, click OK again, and that now formats the data in the pivot table. So this may be more meaningful to you because these are representing dollar amounts. If I wanted to just, filter, just, collapse these cells, I can do that. So I'm seeing now a summary. Remember, we're talking about doing a calculation per person. We have the ability to do that here. So this is the very same table as I was showing you before here. It's just that I've made some minor customizations. Now the next step to this that we could do is turn this pivot table into a pivot chart. And now to do that, we click anywhere within the pivot table. We go to a pivot table analyze tab in the ribbon, and then we would click on pivot chart. And I'm just going to jump to the next screen and show you what that looks like. So again, very same data that we're working with before. I clicked here, click on pivot table analyze, clicked on pivot chart, and you see the option here for me to create multiple different types of charts. So I could do a line chart, a pie chart, a bar chart, whichever is most meaningful to me. So I've selected a clustered column chart, which is the default, and that's what we're seeing here. So I'm gonna close that for a second. So again, this is the very same data that's in the pivot table. And the next thing that I wanted to do from here is just have some filters on this chart. To do that, I highlight the chart, and let me actually bring back the ribbon so it's a little easier to work with. So I'm gonna pin that. And what I do once I have this chart selected is click on insert slicer, and then I select the items that I would want to filter by, and that generates the slicer, 2 slicers that I've created here. What the slicer does is allow us to filter now this chart data based on specific fields. So if I wanted to see, let me close this again so it's easier for you to see. If I wanted to filter again based on that, I just click on that. You see the pivot table is adjusted and the chart is adjusted just from me clicking on this filter. If I click on Kelly, it does that again. If I click on Mom, I'm able to do that. So it's the very same data, but what the slicer allows us to do is filter that same chart. If I wanted to close that out, I can clear the filter by clicking X. I could also do the same based on the type. So if I wanted to see food, if I wanted to see books, and hopefully get the idea from here. Now the next thing that we can do, as mentioned before, is filter based on timeline. So if I wanted to see just the expenses in January, I click the timeline on January, and then I see the table has changed, the chart has changed, and these are the expenses that were realized in January. If I wanted to go February, click on it, changes the chart. If I wanted to see both, I just drag that timeline and it's showing me both. If I wanted to go to March, or maybe I click on March only, I'm seeing that change now. So it's a very powerful thing that you can do with pivot tables and charts. And this is just very simple visualizations that I've done. This took me maybe 5 or 10 minutes to do, and it's simply based on practice. So the more you spend practicing, pivot tables can be a little bit confusing the very first time you use it, but it's just, think of it as just the fields you want to show, the data that you're trying to represent the values for, and everything is really centered around how you're choosing to filter that data. The last thing that I wanted to show you before we go to the questions is just the formatting now of that chart. So clicking again on the chart that we had before, I can go to the design tab, and I have the option to choose different chart styles. So if I wanted to show, this one, I could do that. If I wanted to even do, let's say that I wanted to just show this chart a little bit better. So let me get these things out the way. Just gonna remove them. So to remove it, I right click on it and just choose remove. So let's say that I wanted to have this now. Let's say that I wanted to create a dashboard. I have the ability to just have, let's say I have one sheet with all the tables, I have another sheet with the charts. I label that sheet dashboard, and I can essentially just make that sheet with the data invisible, and then share this file with someone. They look at these charts, I add some slicers for them to be able to filter. And this could be a report that I send to my manager for him to see the data of the expenses that were realized for the first 3 months of the year. So that's just, such, trust me, there is so much more that we can do with this. But as you see, it's just very, very easy. It's all about knowing where to find the options that you're hoping to implement. If I wanted to, change a chart type, let's say that I wanted to go with a different type of chart, I just click on chart and I can switch this to a bar chart instead. And it's the very same data, just now represented as a bar chart. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. Let me see if there are any questions. Are there any questions for me, Marcy? If there are no questions for me, then we can go straight to our question and answer, our quiz.
Okay. So, if everyone can share their, if everyone sees the screen right now with the QR code, please scan this code and get to the game dashboard. When you get to the dashboard, you can enter the code 114103, and we can start the quiz. So please scan the QR code, and when you scan the QR code, please enter the code 114103 on the screen, and we can begin the game. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes for everyone to join, and then we will start the game. So everyone, please scan the QR code below. When you get to that web page, please enter the code. If you do not, if you cannot scan it, I posted the link to get to the quizzes screen. I posted it in the conversation. When you get to the web page, please enter the code 114103, and we will wait a couple of minutes for everyone to join the game. Okay, so everyone has joined. Jermaine, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen now so everyone can everything.
All right, go ahead.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Try sharing again, Marcy. I think it just came off.
Okay.
Seeing it again, yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So let's start the game. No issue with this. Hey, Jermaine, I think we're just going to have to skip the quiz today. We're having a little trouble with starting it up.
Okay, all right, no problem. So what we can do then is just go, I'm seeing one or two questions from the chat. Maybe I can just focus on those.
Yes.
That's no problem. So I'm seeing, let me try and start from the top. So I believe someone wanted to see how to add the slicer again. So I'll just show that real quick.
Okay.
Let me try and see the others. Okay. All right, so you can stop sharing, Marcy, and I'll go ahead and share my screen again. All right. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just remove these slices, show how they're added again. I also saw someone asking if they'll be able to watch the webinar again. Yes, the webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search for Inova Solutions, you'll be able to see this video posted maybe by the end of the week or early next week. All right. So to be able to share or add a slicer, which is a filter for this chart, I click on the chart and then I go to Pivot Chart Analyze tab at the top. Then I click Insert Slicer. So from this dialog box that pops up, I can choose how to filter the chart. So I can select all the fields if I want, but in this case, I'm only interested in buyer and type. So I'd select those two, click OK, and this is how I have the two slicers that are here. All right, so if I wanted to from here, I can now customize the name of the slicer to make it more meaningful, and I do that by going to slicer settings, and I can change the caption. So I can say, let's say I want to call this one family member. Click OK, and that changes the name here. Or this can be team member, coworker, anything that you wish. And from here, I simply just click on the filter, and then it will change the chart and the table based on that filter. All right. So was there any other question? Let me have a look. Or Marcy, could you maybe just check for me?
Yes. So someone was asking if we can see the demo again. That's possible.
Well, no, so we won't have enough time to show the entire demo again, but as I said, you can definitely go to our YouTube channel where all our webinars are posted. And this one should be posted in a few days, and you can watch this entire demo from start to finish, go at your own pace, and be able to practice step by step everything that I showed you here today.
Okay, Jermaine, if you don't mind, we're gonna try doing a quiz again.
Okay.
Refresh the page. So I'm just going to share my screen again, and then we'll see how it goes right now.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and look at some of the questions to see if I can answer them in the meantime.
Okay, perfect. Okay, everyone, I see we have 20 people that have logged in to join this game. We're so excited to have you here. Let's just start. Okay, guys. I see we've got some results. for the quiz, and it looks like some of you did really well. Let's see who the winners are. Okay, so I see we have Laverne as the winner, Incognito coming in on second place, and DASM coming in third place. Congratulations, you guys did really well. And I'm gonna give the floor back to Jermaine now, who will be rounding out the presentation.
Okay, sure. Congratulations, Laverne and Incognito. I'm interested to find out which one maybe you didn't get correct. I'm also jealous that I was not able to participate myself, but it wouldn't be fair since I did the questions, right? So if there are any questions that follow from this session, maybe you're watching it again on our YouTube channel and you have questions, feel free to post a comment on the video, reach out to us on LinkedIn, anywhere that we are available through our website. Even feel free to ask questions. If you're interested in acquiring Office 365, you can speak to us on that as well. And I believe that's it. Yeah, so we ask you as well to fill out a brief evaluation form that we have for this session. I'll ask you, Marcy, to post a link in the webinar for everybody to click on it to fill out that survey. This feedback definitely helps us to make these sessions better, to make them more meaningful and impactful for you. So please do take a few minutes to fill that out for us. And that's it. So the next one that's coming up would be January 2021, and it's getting the most out of your Office apps for PowerPoint. Now, that'll be a very interesting one, I think. So definitely register for that one as soon as the link becomes available. And we really want to thank you for attending. Please feel free to share the video as well with your co-workers and colleagues. Help them benefit from the session as well. And I thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.